Durian, imagine stepping into a humid Southeast Asian market, the air thick with a scent that hits you like a freight train. Some call it the king of fruits, others the forbidden one, but nobody forgets their first encounter with durian. Native to the lush rainforests of Borneo, Sumatra, and the Malay Peninsula, this spiky behemoth has ruled the tropical canopy for thousands of years, its massive, thorny husk a natural fortress hiding treasures within. Archaeologists have unearthed evidence of its cultivation dating back over 4,000 years, and by the 9th century, skilled Javanese artisans were carving intricate durian motifs into the stone walls of Borobudur Temple, proof that this fruit wasn't just food, it was sacred, a symbol of abundance in ancient Hindu-Buddhist kingdoms. Chinese traders sailing the spice routes in the 1400s wrote rapturous accounts of it, calling it the fruit of the gods, though even then they noted its notorious aroma. The real magic and the scandal lies in its chemistry. That overpowering stench, it's no accident. Scientists pinpointed a single gene in the durian genome responsible for pumping out volatile sulfur compounds like ethanethiol and propanethiol, the same molecules that give rotten eggs and onions their punch. Evolution wired this as a clever trick. In the wild, the smell lured massive mammals like elephants and tigers to eat the fruit and scatter its seeds across vast distances. Today, that same evolutionary genius gets durian banned from hotels, subways, and airplanes across Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia. Fines can hit hundreds of dollars, and signs everywhere scream, "No durian allowed," yet crack open that husk and the transformation is pure alchemy. Inside, the creamy, custard-like flesh glows pale yellow or deep orange depending on the variety. Musang King for its buttery richness, D24 for its intense sweetness. One bite delivers a symphony, sweet custard swirled with roasted almonds, caramelized onions, and a whisper of vanilla, all balanced by a savory, almost garlicky undertone that lingers like fine wine. The texture melts on the tongue, velvety and slightly fibrous, with a mouthfeel that coats your palate in luxurious fat. Durian is 30% fat, loaded with vitamin C, potassium, and tryptophan that can leave you blissfully relaxed. Locals swear by its medicinal powers. In traditional Malay medicine, it's a warming fruit for postpartum recovery, while Thai street vendors pair it with sticky rice and coconut cream for the ultimate dessert. Fun fact, during the 19th century, British colonials in Malaya tried desperately to import durian back home, only to have entire shipments quarantined because the smell permeated everything. Even today, it divides the world. Western tourists often flee, while Southeast Asians queue for hours at night markets. Compared to its milder cousin, the jackfruit, durian is the wild child. Bolder, smellier, more addictive once you surrender. One taste and you're hooked for life. The king reclaiming its throne bite by creamy, unforgettable bite. Stinky Tofu. Venture into the night markets of Taipei or the bustling streets of Changsha in Hunan province, and the air suddenly thickens with a smell that could clear a room, yet crowds swarm like moths to a flame. This is Stinky Tofu, a Chinese street food legend fermented for centuries in secret brines that turn ordinary bean curd into something legendary. Historians trace its roots to the Hunan region during the Qing dynasty around the 17th century, when resourceful farmers discovered that soaking fresh tofu in a pungent mixture of fermented vegetables, herbs, bamboo shoots, and sometimes dried shrimp or fish created a natural preservative that could last weeks without refrigeration. Legend has it, a poor scholar named Wang Jihei accidentally invented a version in the 1600s after leaving tofu outside too long, and his mistake became a palace favorite when the emperor tasted it. Today, every vendor guards their brine recipe like a family heirloom. Some age it for days, others for weeks. The longer the ferment, the deeper the funk. Chemically, it's a masterclass in microbial magic. Lactic acid bacteria and molds break down proteins and fats, producing volatile amines and sulfur compounds that scream rotting garbage or strong blue cheese to the uninitiated. The blocks soak until they develop a soft, almost custardy interior while the surface picks up that eye-watering aroma. Then comes the street-side alchemy. Vendors deep fry them in hot oil until the outside turns golden and shatteringly crispy, the inside remaining silky and quivering. Bite in, and the contrast is what addicts millions. The nose says disgust, but the mouth explodes with mild, savory depth. Umami so profound it rivals aged Parmesan, layered with nutty, fermented notes and a faint sweetness that lingers. The texture? crispy shell giving way to a creamy, slightly bouncy center that melts like the world's most sophisticated cheese. In Taiwan, it's a midnight ritual, often served with pickled cabbage, chili sauce, and garlic. In Hunan, it's stewed or steamed for an even earthier punch. Cultural significance runs deep. During tough economic times, it was cheap protein that kept families fed, and today, it symbolizes resilience and bold flavor. Fun trivia, NASA once studied Stinky Tofu's fermentation for long-duration space food because the microbes are so hardy. Compared to regular tofu, which is mild and forgettable, Stinky Tofu is the rock star, intense, unapologetic, and impossible to stop eating once that first crispy bite hooks you. Street vendors and night markets will tell you the smell is the price of admission to one of Asia's greatest flavor revelations. Century egg. Step back centuries to the misty hills of Hunan province in China, where resourceful villagers in the 1600s stumbled upon a preservation miracle that would become one of the most misunderstood delicacies on the planet. Century eggs, also called thousand-year eggs, weren't invented in a lab but born from necessity. Farmers coated fresh duck or chicken eggs in a paste of clay, wood ash, salt, quicklime, and rice hulls, then buried them in earthen jars for months. The alkaline environment, with a pH climbing above 12, triggered a slow chemical transformation, no actual centuries required, though some premium versions age up to 100 days. Quicklime reacts with the egg's proteins, turning the white into a dark, translucent, amber-colored jelly and the yolk into a creamy, dark, greenish-gray sphere. Sulfur and ammonia aromas waft out, the same compounds that make strong blue cheese or aged cured meats so potent. To Western noses, it reeks of rot, but to those raised on it, the flavor is a rich, savory umami bomb. Earthy, slightly metallic, with hints of pine and cured yolk that pair perfectly with congee or pickled ginger. The texture is pure luxury. The white jiggles like firm aspic, while the yolk melts creamily on the tongue, delivering a concentrated essence of egg amplified by fermentation. Historians believe the technique spread from Hunan across China during the Ming Dynasty, becoming a staple in imperial banquets and humble homes alike. One surprising story? In the 19th century, British explorers in China mistook them for fossilized eggs and shipped samples home, only for them to become curiosities in London museums. Today, century eggs are a delicacy sliced thin and served cold. Their jet black and gray hues looking almost alien, yet tasting like the soul of Chinese comfort food. Legally, modern production follows strict food safety standards in China, with pH levels and curing times regulated to avoid any health risks from improper alkaline levels. Compared to a regular boiled egg, the century egg is its ancient, intensified cousin, deeper, more complex, and packed with bioavailable iron and amino acids that traditional Chinese medicine credits for boosting vitality. Once you get past the initial shock, it's addictive, a testament to human ingenuity, turning time and chemistry into edible art. Balut. In the humid alleys of Manila's night markets, vendors hawk a snack that looks like it crawled straight out of a nature documentary. Balut, the fertilized duck egg incubated for 14 to 21 days until a tiny embryo develops, then boiled or steamed to perfection. This Filipino street food icon traces its origins to the Philippines in the 17th century, when Chinese traders introduced duck egg incubation techniques that quickly spread to Vietnam and Cambodia. Locals perfected the process. Eggs are kept warm in woven baskets or modern incubators at a steady 37 to 38 degrees Celsius. The embryo growing feathers, beak, and bones, while the yolk remains soft and nutrient-dense. By day 14, it's a protein powerhouse, high in calcium from the forming bones, perfect for the working class who needed cheap, portable energy. Crack one open under the glow of streetlights, and the contents reveal a tiny feathered embryo floating in warm, savory broth alongside a soft yolk and partially formed bones. The smell is unmistakably eggy with a faint gaminess that reminds some of rich liver pâté. Sip the broth first. It's salty, slightly sweet, and deeply comforting, then devour the rest in one or two bites, crunchy beak and bones contrasting the creamy yolk and soft embryo flesh. Filipinos season it with vinegar, salt, chili, and garlic, turning the experience into a bold, textural adventure. Culturally, balut is a symbol of masculinity and vitality, sold late at night to fuel conversations and camaraderie. During World War II, it sustained soldiers and civilians alike when food was scarce. Fun fact, the perfect balut is judged by the sound of the sip, The louder the broth, the better the balance. Compared to a regular duck egg, Balut is its adventurous sibling, gamey, nutrient-packed, and wrapped in a story of resilience. Though outsiders often recoil at the sight, locals cherish it as high-protein street fuel that connects generations. One taste and the shock fades into appreciation for this living, breathing bite of Filipino ingenuity, natto. Dawn breaks over a traditional Japanese breakfast table, and there it sits. Natto, a sticky, slimy mass of fermented soybeans that looks like it could crawl off the plate. This humble dish has been a staple for over 1,000 years. Born in the Nara period around the 8th century, when Buddhist monks and farmers noticed that boiling soybeans and wrapping them in straw led to a natural fermentation courtesy of Bacillus subtilis bacteria. The process is lightning fast, 12 to 24 hours at 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, and transforms plain beans into a web of long, stretching threads called neba. That ammonia and aged cheese aroma, it comes from the bacteria breaking down proteins into peptides and amines, creating a powerful umami that Japanese elders swear promotes longevity and gut health. The flavor is nutty, slightly bitter, and profoundly savory, with a texture that's equal parts slippery and chewy. Fans mix it with hot rice, soy sauce, mustard, and green onions, the sliminess binding everything into a glossy, addictive bite. Culturally, natto symbolizes health and simplicity. Samurai reportedly carried it as battlefield rations, and modern science backs the hype, with studies showing it reduces blood pressure and supports bone density thanks to vitamin K2. One legendary story from the Edo period tells of a lord who survived a harsh winter solely on natto and rice. To foreigners, the odor and threads can be unbearable at first, but once you embrace it, natto becomes addictive, far more intense than milder fermented soy like miso. In Japan, it's breakfast royalty, eaten daily by millions who grew up with its funky charms. Compared to tempeh or regular soybeans, natto is the wild fermented rebel, sticky, pungent, and packed with probiotic power that turns a simple meal into a health elixir. Honggeo-ho. Deep in Korea's Jeolla province, where the sea meets rugged cliffs, fishermen centuries ago discovered nature's own preservative in the humble skatefish. Honggeo-ho emerged in the 14th century during the Goryeo dynasty, when long sea voyages forced crews to pack fish without ice. Skate flesh is naturally packed with urea instead of a traditional bladder, so as it ferments, urea converts to pure ammonia, creating a smell so sharp it's been likened to an outhouse or industrial cleaner. The fish is packed tightly in jars or barrels and aged naturally, no added cultures needed, until the flesh develops a chewy, rubbery texture and a stinging menthol-like burn that clears the sinuses. Sliced paper thin and served raw or lightly aged, Honggeo-ho delivers a flavor that's intense and addictive, sharp, ammoniated umami with oceanic depth that pairs perfectly with kimchi and soju. The burn hits the nose first, then the palate, leaving a lingering tingle that locals crave. Cultural lore says it was a survival food during famines, later elevated to a delicacy at royal tables. Today, it's a test of true Korean palate strength, often enjoyed in small groups where the stronger the smell, the better the batch. Compared to fresh sashimi, Honggeo-ho is its fermented cousin on steroids, more pungent than even the strongest blue cheese. One bite past the shock, and you're hooked on its addictive sting and chewy resilience, a living link to Korea's seafaring heritage. Mam tom. In the sun-drenched coastal villages of Vietnam, tiny shrimp are mixed with salt and left to ferment in massive earthen jars for months, transforming into mam tom, a thick purple-brown sludge that is the beating heart of countless national dishes. This iconic paste dates back over 1,000 years to the ancient Champa and Vietnamese kingdoms, where coastal communities discovered that salting and sun-drying shrimp created an umami bomb that could preserve seafood through monsoons. The fermentation relies on halophilic bacteria breaking down proteins into free amino acids and volatile compounds that produce that unmistakable concentrated sewage and rotting seafood aroma. A single tiny spoonful can transform an entire pot of bun bo hu or bun rio into something unmistakably Vietnamese. The flavor is pure depth, salty, funky, and richly savory with earthy notes that bloom when cooked. Texture-wise, it's a smooth paste that dissolves into sauces, delivering an umami punch no other ingredient can match. Culturally, mam tom is soul food. Grandmothers pass down secret ratios of shrimp to salt, and it features in rituals and daily meals alike. Fun fact, during the Vietnam War, soldiers carried jars of it as portable flavor. Compared to fish sauce, Mom Team is earthier and more intense, the secret weapon behind Vietnam's most addictive street eats. Pig's blood cake. Taiwanese night markets glow under strings of lanterns as vendors grill dark, square blocks that look almost ominous. Pig's blood cake, a street food staple born in the mid-20th century when resourceful cooks mixed fresh pig's blood with sticky rice and steamed it into firm cakes. The blood coagulates at around 70 degrees Celsius, binding the rice into a dense, chewy block that's then fried or grilled until the outside crisps while the interior stays tender. The dark color and faint metallic aroma can surprise newcomers, but the taste is mild, savory, and liver-like, with a subtle iron richness that pairs perfectly with peanut powder, cilantro, and chili sauce. This snack has fed generations at bustling markets, evolving from humble post-war sustenance into a beloved comfort food. Texturally, it's chewy yet yielding, like the world's most satisfying rice cake with a meaty depth. Culturally, it represents resourcefulness, nothing wasted, and remains a favorite for locals who grew up snacking on it after school. Compared to blood sausage in Europe, pig's blood cake is lighter and more approachable, a perfect balance of crisp exterior and soft center that keeps you coming back for more. Shiokara. Japanese sake bars have long relied on shiokara, a fermented seafood paste most famously made from squid guts mixed with salt and aged for months in wooden barrels. The technique traces to the Heian period over 1,000 years ago, when fishermen preserved catches by salting the innards, allowing natural enzymes and bacteria to create a salty, sticky paste bursting with ammonia and intense fishy aromas that many compare to dead shellfish left in the sun. The result is soft and slightly chewy, so concentrated that a small dab on rice or straight from the jar is all you need. Sake drinkers adore it because the powerful salt and umami slice through alcohol like a knife, creating perfect harmony. Culturally, it's a humble fisherman's delicacy elevated to izakaya royalty. Compared to milder pickled seafood, shiokara is the bold, unfiltered version, raw power in every bite. Pla ra. Thailand's bustling markets hide jars of pla ra, the essential fermented fish sauce made by burying small fish or fish parts with salt and rice bran for many months until they dissolve into a thick, brownish liquid. This ancient technique, practiced for over 1,000 years in the kingdom's rural heartlands, relies on anaerobic bacteria breaking down proteins into a powerfully fishy, rotten aroma that is the secret behind sumtam, larb, and countless curries. The longer it ferments, the stronger and more prized it becomes among serious cooks. A dash transforms any dish into something unmistakably Thai, deep, funky umami that no modern substitute can replicate. Culturally, it's the backbone of Eastern cuisine, a taste of home for millions. Compared to regular fish sauce, pla ra is earthier and more intense, the soul of Thai street food, sanakji. Korean seafood restaurants serve sanakji, live baby octopus cut into wriggling pieces and dressed with sesame oil and seeds, as a test of bravery and a perfect drinking snack. The tentacles keep moving on the plate, their suckers gripping the bowl or even the inside of your mouth if you're not careful. Texture is rubbery yet crisp, with a clean, slightly sweet seafood flavor that's surprisingly delicate. This dish celebrates freshness and courage, a tradition rooted in Korea's coastal culture where live seafood signifies vitality. One careful chew, and you're rewarded with oceanic purity that pairs brilliantly with soju. Bird's nest soup. High in the limestone caves of Southeast Asia, swiftlets build delicate white nests from their own saliva, small cups of dried mucus harvested by hand for bird's nest soup, a luxury prized for centuries in Chinese and Vietnamese cultures. Soaked and simmered, the nests dissolve into a gelatinous, silky soup with almost no taste of its own, but an incredibly smooth, slimy mouthfeel that feels like drinking liquid jade. Believed to boost immunity and beauty since the Tang dynasty, it remains a symbol of wealth and care, its harvesting an ancient, dangerous craft. The texture alone, velvety and luxurious, is why emperors and modern elites alike swear by it. Tempeh. Indonesia's answer to tofu is tempeh, a fermented soybean cake created when cooked beans are bound by a white mold called risopus into a firm, fuzzy block that looks almost alive. The process, dating back centuries in Java, happens at warm room temperatures over 24 to 48 hours, producing a nutty, earthy aroma some find off-putting at first. Sliced and fried or grilled, it develops a chewy, meat-like texture and deep, savory flavor that vegetarians worldwide now champion as a sustainable protein. Indonesians have eaten it daily for generations as affordable, gut-friendly nutrition, Far more flavorful and textured than plain tofu, it's a complete cultural staple. Dinuguan. Filipino family gatherings always feature dinuguan, a rich stew where pork meat and offal simmer in a thick sauce of pig's blood, vinegar, and spices until the blood turns a deep chocolate brown. The dish looks like pudding but tastes like bold, spicy blood sausage, slightly metallic, deeply savory with a comforting thickness that coats the rice. Born from Spanish colonial influences mixed with indigenous cooking, it has been a fiesta favorite for centuries, turning humble ingredients into luxurious comfort. Vinegar balances the richness perfectly, creating a dish that feels like a warm hug from Philippine culinary tradition. Fried tarantula. In the dusty town of Skuon, Cambodia, street vendors deep fry enormous jungle tarantulas until their legs crisp like potato chips and the body turns chewy and nutty. The practice surged during the Khmer Rouge era when people ate whatever protein they could find, but today it's a beloved local delicacy and tourist challenge. Seasoned simply and fried hot, the taste is surprisingly shrimp-like with a crunchy exterior and soft, almost crab meat interior. One bite reveals why locals line up. Unexpectedly delicious, protein-packed, and wrapped in a story of survival turned celebration. Compared to other fried insects, fried tarantula is the king of crunch, a bold, unforgettable taste of Cambodia's resilient spirit.